PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium tiers offer an extensive collection of PlayStation titles spanning all generations. Get ready to discover the best PlayStation 5 games available on the service. Starting with Ghostwire Tokyo, a first-person supernatural game set in the eponymous Japanese city, the story follows a boy who becomes possessed by a spirit, granting him access to a range of abilities. Tasked with freeing spirits held captive by a mysterious man, the boy travels across the desolate city while occasionally fighting off ghosts. Explore a beautiful city that blends ultra-modern cityscapes and stunning ancient shrines as you purge the darkness from your home. Armed with your own mysterious abilities, you will face the occult, unravel conspiracy theories, and experience urban legends like never before. With its immersive atmosphere and stunning visuals, Ghostwire Tokyo is sure to provide a spine-chilling experience. Number 19. Immortals Fenyx Rising. This 2020 title takes place in a fantastical world inspired by Greek mythology and follows a hero who is tasked with stopping Typhon. Immortals Fenyx Rising is an excellent adventure with a rich world that is ready for exploration and features a wonderful combat system. In the game, you will engage in dynamic combat both in the air and on the ground, fighting against iconic mythological beasts. Immortals Fenyx Rising offers an amazing story that can be polarizing among players. Additionally, the game's combat, puzzles, and environments are highly enjoyable. While it may still have some quirks associated with Ubisoft's projects, Fenyx also draws inspiration from Breath of the Wild, creating a satisfying middle ground experience. Number 18. Wreckfest. Modern destruction derby games are unfortunately in short supply. Twisted Metal has been dormant for a decade. The last noteworthy flat-out game came out in 2008, and Burnout has become a distant memory of a bygone era. Mad Max was one of the best vehicular combat games of the 2010s, with driving being just one awesome part of its larger whole. Since its release in 2018, Wreckfest has established itself as the default modern vehicular combat game due to a lack of competition. However, even if vehicular combat were still an active genre, Bugbear's release would have risen to the top simply because it is that much fun to play. Number 17. Yakuza Like a Dragon. Like a Dragon marked a new chapter in the license's history while still being a mainline entry. The story revolves around a goofy but lovable Yakuza member with aspirations of heroism. Like a Dragon uses a turn-based combat system akin to something like Dragon Quest. In fact, the game makes a few direct references to Square Enix's franchise. As always, Yakuza lives and dies by the strength of its writing, and Like a Dragon compares favorably to any entry in the series. The primary storyline instantly sinks its teeth into players, and it does not let go until the credits roll. The side quests are also good fun, and they are equally likely to be hilarious or heartbreaking. Number 16. Control Ultimate Edition. Remedy Entertainment has a track record of producing ambitious games with addictive combat and fascinating stories. In many ways, Control represents the studio at its best and most intriguing. The game is set in the FBC, a government building devoted to investigating and storing the strange and otherworldly. Unsurprisingly, things go desperately wrong, and it is up to Jesse Faden to clean up the mess. Armed with a shape-shifting gun and an array of satisfying powers, Jesse traverses the FBC's halls as reality twists and turns around her. Control's gameplay is incredible, and this world's lore demands to be explored. Number 15. Deliver Us the Moon. With Earth stripped of its natural resources, humanity turned to the moon for assistance, leading to the discovery of helium-3, an isotope that resolved humanity's crisis. However, when the machine responsible for transmitting the energy to Earth suddenly stops functioning, an astronaut is sent to the moon with the hope of fixing the situation. Deliver Us the Moon presents a fascinating premise filled with tension as it delves into an end-of-the-world scenario, heightened by the protagonist's isolation. The gameplay primarily revolves around exploration and puzzle solving. While the puzzles may not offer significant challenges, they are engaging and well-crafted. Ultimately, Deliver Us the Moon is a story-driven experience, and the game excels in that aspect. Number 14 is Inscription. At a glance, Inscription might appear to be a fairly typical card battler, albeit one with a darker aesthetic than the norm for the genre. And in some ways, the game is just that, but there is so much more to this package than meets the eye. Inscription's card system might not hold too many surprises for people familiar with tabletop projects, but it is generally well executed and addictive in a way that only these type of games seem to be. Structured as a roguelite, players find themselves going up against a rather strange figure and a host of other opponents as they seek to win a series of matches. Each victory rewards new cards and upgrades, but multiple losses will send players back to square one. Inscription does not stop at just a compelling battle system. The game also encourages players to explore beyond the table in order to piece together their circumstances. Simply, this is a card game with a story, and it is well done. Number 13, Sackboy: A Big Adventure. Little Big Planet has been mostly dormant in recent years, with the franchise's only notable project being a 2020 spin-off. A launch title for the PS5, Sackboy: A Big Adventure is a traditional 3D platformer that oozes charm out of every fiber of its being. Gameplay-wise, Sumo Digital delivered responsive controls and a respectable array of moves and powers to keep things interesting. The game not only plays well in single-player, but also supports co-op, to the point that some levels require a second user, although most of the content can be tackled by solo players. In the grand scheme of things, PS Plus does not have all that many 3D platformers, especially ones synonymous with the PlayStation brand. The likes of Crash Bandicoot and Spyro are not available on the subscription service, and Sackboy is one of the few games that can fill the void left by these absent franchises. Number 12, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. As the first post-launch editions, Sony needed to knock PS Plus Premium and Extra's July lineup out of the park to demonstrate its commitment to the subscription service. And for the most part, the selection delivered the goods, particularly for fans of Ubisoft and Square Enix. Except for a day one release, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade was the biggest newcomer. In fact, this JRPG is good enough to warrant a 1-month subscription on its own. Intergrade contains the 2020 base game and its episode intermission DLC that introduces Yuffie as a playable character. As a whole, this package should keep someone busy for quite a while, and that's if they only focus on the main story. With addictive real-time combat, gorgeous visuals, and a gripping story that changes a few things from the classic 1997 game, Final Fantasy VII is one of the best PS5 games on PS Plus. Number 11, Kena Bridge of Spirits. AA gaming has been on the decline since the end of the PS3 era, with only a handful of modern releases falling within this category. However, there are a couple of projects that successfully walk the line between indie and AAA, and Kena Bridge of Spirits serves as a prime example. This visually impressive action-adventure title immerses players in a fully realized fantasy world with absolutely gorgeous locations. The art style and special effects are undoubtedly some of the game's strongest features. That being said, the rest of the experience is far from underwhelming. Gameplay-wise, Kena shares similarities with bow-wielding games like Tomb Raider and Horizon Forbidden West, while also incorporating staff-themed melee attacks. Although the combat can be somewhat repetitive, it is generally enjoyable and surprisingly challenging, especially during encounters with campaign bosses. In addition to battles, the game heavily relies on puzzles and exploration, both of which are well executed. If you're enjoying this video so far, a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated. Number 10, Returnal. Housemarque's Returnal is a sci-fi epic about Celine, a space traveler who visits a strange planet and becomes ensnared in a time loop. This plot point serves as narrative justification for the third-person shooter's roguelike structure. As Celine explores Atropos' 6 biomes, her demise will signal a return to the beginning. Returnal has fantastic gameplay, which is hardly surprising considering the studio's previous releases like Alienation. The story builds an engrossing sense of mystery while cleverly diving into Celine's history and mental state. Moreover, Returnal serves as a perfect example of the performance of the PS5 and all its functions. It offers exceptional gameplay and features captivating music that immerses you and keeps you engaged until you uncover every aspect of it. Number 9. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Following the disappointing Marvel's Avengers, one would have been forgiven for being skeptical about Square Enix's Guardians of the Galaxy. Thankfully, this single-player game is far superior to its live service sibling. As Star-Lord, players get to experience a planet-hopping adventure packed with humor, action, and flashes of emotion. While it is a bit disappointing that only Peter Quill is playable, Guardians of the Galaxy's combat system blossoms nicely as the campaign progresses and players become more familiar with its intricacies. Narratively, this game should please both fans of the comics and the MCU movies. Overall, Guardians of the Galaxy is an enjoyable game, meticulously crafted with a captivating narrative and a strong focus on player entertainment, making it one of the best PS5 games available on PS Plus. Number 8. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, a majestic open-world action game that expertly blends visuals, story, and gameplay to create an experience that feels complete. Inspired by the Mongol invasion of Tsushima Island in the 1270s, the eponymous ghost refers to Jin Sakai, a samurai who seeks to free his home and regain his honor. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut packages the base game with the Iki Island expansion, adding roughly 10 hours of content to what is already quite an expansive campaign. Alongside with its good plot, the DLC is of mostly high quality, and the same could be said for the Legends multiplayer mode. The game's unique setting and impressive combat mechanics set it apart from the multitude of titles on PS Plus. Number 7. Rogue Legacy 2. It took a while, but Rogue Legacy 2 finally made its way to the PS5 and PS4 in June 2023, debuting directly on PS Plus Extra. On the surface, the sequel to 2013's influential roguelite might not seem to take all that many risks as it largely sticks to the same core formula. However, the game plays out like a perfected version of the original Rogue Legacy, which was and still is fantastic. As before, players are randomly assigned a class as they head into massive levels in search of loot and bosses. When death comes calling, they can pick from 3 new characters who will have different classes and personality traits. While they must start exploring from scratch, players can use their acquired loot to purchase upgrades, so they are not constantly returning to zero. Rogue Legacy 2 emphasizes the differences between its classes way more than its predecessor, to the point that each one feels completely unique. Simply trying out the various options is fun, especially since most classes are fairly complex and take a while to master. Variety is also provided through the many traits, relics, and upgrades, all of which can greatly alter a build or run. The stages are expansive, ambitious, and detailed, ending with memorable boss fights that will test anyone's skills. Number 6. Doom Eternal. April 2023 was a good month for Doom fans as 5 games were added to PS Plus. ID Software knocked 2016's Doom completely out of the park, and the developer could have simply opted to rethread the exact same ground for the sequel. Thankfully, Doom Eternal carves its own identity. While still ultimately the Doom everyone knows and loves, this entry shakes things up by emphasizing the Doom Slayer's range of motion, even including things like a grappling hook. These abilities work beautifully within combat, providing players with more options than ever before. Even with a fairly forgiving dodge function, Doom Eternal still packs a considerable punch, especially since ammo is reasonably limited. The campaign does include a few polarizing platforming and traversal sections, but they do not take much away from the overall experience. Number 5. Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. PS Plus Extra's January 2023 editions included a couple of PS5 games, with the biggest title being undoubtedly Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. More than a decade after the release of Devil May Cry 4, Capcom finally blessed the world with a proper sequel. The release more than lived up to the hype. The base game features 3 playable characters, Nero, Dante, and V, who all control completely differently from each other. Consequently, the campaign barely ever has a dull moment since it is constantly switching combat systems, with each one offering a fair amount of depth. The special edition takes things to the next level by throwing Virgil into the mix, and the legendary character is a delight in battle. Devil May Cry 5 is a must-play for any action fan, and it is comfortably among the best PS5 games available on PS Plus. Number 4. Deathloop, an FPS built upon a time loop concept. Players are cast as Colt, an assassin who must take out 8 targets within a single day. If he fails, the day restarts from scratch, and this reset is part of the story and not just a mechanic. Producing Dishonored and Prey, Arcane is known for its creative shooters that blend enjoyable gunplay with versatile powers and stealth, all things that are part of Deathloop's blueprint. An argument could be made that the 2021 release is Arcane's strongest effort to date, particularly in terms of gameplay. Designed to be replayed, Deathloop has a puzzle-style element to it as players gradually accumulate information as they pave their way to a perfect run. The story is also quite good and develops nicely as the campaign progresses. Number 3. Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection. PS Plus Extra launched with the PS4 versions of Uncharted 4: A Thief's End and The Lost Legacy. However, in March 2023, PS5's The Legacy of Thieves Collection was added to the service. While the last generation iterations were already fantastic, the remaster package brings subtle yet impactful changes that make Legacy of Thieves Collection the definitive way to experience these two captivating stories. Fueled by the power of the PS5, Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy now offer multiple performance modes, allowing players to choose between prioritizing 4K resolution or a smooth 60 FPS. Additionally, the visuals have been refined, resulting in a cleaner and more immersive presentation. These improvements enhance two titles that were already considered masterpieces. Number 2. Demon's Souls. When the PlayStation 5 was released, Bluepoint's Demon's Souls remake was the main reason to pick up the console. Since then, Sony's system has welcomed quite a few great projects, but this launch title continues to be one of the PS5's crowning achievements. From Software's 2009 original is also available on PS Plus Premium, and as game-changing as that PS3 classic is, the remake's improved gameplay and enhanced environments make it one of the best games on the subscription service. And number 1 is Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Rift Apart was one of the first projects to truly come across as a next-generation experience, and the game is still among the console's standard setters. Insomniac has been on fire over the last few years, and while Spider-Man has hogged most of the spotlight, the studio regularly produces the goods whenever it returns to its other flagship IP. Rift Apart is fundamentally just another Ratchet & Clank adventure that delivers exactly what most fans have come to expect from the franchise. Along with stunning graphics, the game has fast-paced and satisfying gunplay, enjoyable platforming, lavish worlds, and charming characters. Although not lacking in new ideas, including the introduction of a second playable character, Rift Apart mainly seeks to perfect the formula rather than reinvent it. The result is a polished, confident, and delightful third-person shooter, making it the most worth-playing PS5 game on the subscription service. As we reach the end of our video, we would like to thank you for joining us as we explored the best PS5 games on PS Plus. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up to show your support. We'd also love to hear your opinion in the comment section below. Until next time, happy gaming!